It's Friday, December 19th, 2014. I'm Jimmy Principe.
I'm Sydney Foster.
And I'm Trey Comstock. Put in your final orders because this is Tech's Last Call, episode 99. Your last call for Tech News of the Week. Tonight, Jimmy reveals the personalist information. Sydney emails her directions to space. And I blame North Korea for just about everything.
It's a good start.
And we start tonight with things getting hotter over at Sony. So I'll start with the most important part of this and then work my way back through the story. The FBI and the White House have linked the Sony Pictures hack to North Korea. And they say that the U.S. government will have a proportional response at a time and place of their choosing. Okay, so let's go back. On Tuesday, the Grand Old Party, the Guardians of Peace, sent Sony a carefully worded threat of violence at movie theaters, hearkening to 9/11, if Sony released the interview. Potentially the film at the heart of all of this by James Franco and Seth Rogen. As a result of this threat being made public, most of the major theater chains decided not to show the film, particularly as Christmas is the biggest theater-going day of the year.
Really?
Yep.
Ironically.
Then, Sony canceled the launch of the film entirely and said that they had no plans to release the film at a later date.
Ouch.
Kim Zetter, over at Wired.com, wrote a long article basically saying that it's unlikely that North Korea did it, mostly because state actors don't shout about what they've done or put blinking red skulls on the face of the computers.
Bring the 90s hackers to life.
Hacker movie. However, the FBI, citing classified information, as well as some of the publicly available stuff, stated that North Korea, quote, is, quote, responsible. This could still mean that the hacks were done by a third party at North Korea's behest, like a hacktivist group. The president spoke about the matter at his press conference today, saying that he is disappointed in Sony for not releasing the film, that it sets a bad precedent of caving to the censorship of a violent actor. Sony Pictures Entertainment CEO Michael Linton, speaking to CNN, said that the president is mistaken in that they can't put the film out if no one will show it.
True.
More oddly, he stated that he needs a third party to release it via video on demand, and no one's come forward, despite the fact that Sony owns the PlayStation Network and Crackle, both of which are video on demand services. I, for one...
So even Sony hasn't come forward.
Right, even Sony
we haven't come forward to help ourselves.
Well, Sony has a notoriously hostile and competitive internal culture. So it isn't a given that Sony PlayStation Network would work with Sony Pictures Entertainment to do something mildly interesting. So I, for one, agree with the president and hope that we get to see the interview somehow. Because if not, a crazy, communist, oppressive dictator has successfully censored the United States. So the big question that's kind of floating around in the tech press is, do we believe the FBI and the president that it was North Korea? Kim Zetter makes a very strong case that it probably wasn't. The FBI has previously said that it wasn't. The Guardians of Peace has previously said that it wasn't North Korea. And yet we have, the government of the United States saying that it is. So what are y'all's thoughts on this?
Seems like it would be a wildly irresponsible thing for them to say if they didn't have something to back it up.
Sure. Yeah.
That's a good argument. They're more likely to say, we cannot confirm.
we can neither confirm nor deny
North Korea's involvement in the hacking of Sony Pictures at this time.
Right, and I think that is an angle that a lot of the tech press, at least that I've been following, has missed. The international implications of making this kind of threat.
Right.
Because not only did we say you did it, we also said we will respond.
Right. I think everybody's so focused on oh no, a professional government level hacker wouldn't hack. They're focused on the technical aspects and not the political aspects of the situation.
Right. I mean, I've heard some, kind of conspiracy mongering. It's like, oh, this is just a new excuse to go to war with North Korea.
Oh, yeah.
Which, sure, okay, maybe. This seems like an odd way to do that.
This time, let's
It's
make sure
because we're
China's on our side.
normalizing relationships with Cuba. We needed some other communists to mess with.
Yeah, but it's not like we've been slowly lifting sanctions on Pyongyang any time ever, right? Like, North Korea remains...
The 38th parallel is still the most militarized area in the world.
Right, like... We have very strict sanctions to the point where people are scratching their head as to what new sanctions on North Korea would look like, given how strongly we sanction them already.
We're going to start calling it the country that must not be named.
Right, we'll just stop naming it directly in all press releases. I mean,
We'll no longer recognize them as an actual country.
I'll have to admit, though, when I found out that Sony was pulling the launch of the film, I was deeply disappointed. I was like, really, guys?
Yeah,
really?
that's pretty sad.
You have just caved to Kim Jong-un?
Although I do think that Sony makes an excellent point. We can't show the movie if no one will show it.
I'm fine. Like, I get why the theater owners pulled it, of course. No, even if the threat of violence isn't credible, which it probably isn't, good luck convincing the public of that, and they don't want to lose the biggest movie-going day of the year. I totally get that. Why are they not putting out via PSN or Crackle?
Right. Well, and the thing is, for Sony at this point, they've already spent the money to make the movie.
$40 million.
So it's not like they're saving themselves money by not putting it out somewhere.
Well, and the other thing is
and
that
people will want to see it now because there's all this talk around it. Like, if you put it out there, people will want to see it.
I certainly will. What were you going to say, Jimmy?
I mean, I saw an article just this afternoon from while I was pulling together kind of the information for the doc that on CNET that they're now exploring alternative options for releasing the movie, including the video on demand services and other things. But at one point, there was a thought that they would just kind of go, "Okay, here's the movie."
Yeah. Open source it.
Open source it and just
release it under a Creative Commons license.
go for it.
Enjoy. We're gonna play it on PBS.
Right, yeah. It's running on PBS. This rated R comedy.
Yeah, oh yeah, that'll work. But the fact that Sony still obviously has a plan to release the movie because
I wouldn't say obviously. I think they are now scrambling for a plan because the president called them out.
Okay, that's fair. Let's
awesome.
go back to Sony is working on a plan for how to release the movie because at the end of the day they're a business. They want to get the money out of that they have in it. And let's be honest, if they were going to release it in the next week or two, the press around it is ridiculous.
Right.
People that would not have seen this movie in theaters
Like me.
Because I said, I mean that looks kind of amusing, but I'll wait for that to come out on, Redbox and
And
I'll
then
watch
forget
it for
about it,
$1.
and I won't ever see it.
Well, this is the Anchorman. I'm not going to pay for Anchorman 2 in theaters. I'm not paying $15 to go see Anchorman.
It's an airplane movie.
Don't pay any dollars to go see
I watched it on
Anchorman.
an airplane, and
Airplane movie.
Yeah, I saw it on
still
an airplane.
felt kind of dirty. So
It's not a good movie. I mean, the Rumble scene is not as good as the first one because it was expected, but it was still good. That's really what I watch Anchorman for, is the Rumble scenes.
yeah, I mean, it's really the movie and the one-liners.
I have a Trident.
But so I think that they're going to release it at some point in some way. Well, I think that we will see the movie at some.
I hope so. I mean, I hope
I
so.
don't think they're going to shelve it. No.
I get the theater owners bit, but Sony, you own a video on demand service. Release it.
The other fun part about this
Let
was,
it go. Let it go.
Did you see the article about the director of the film apologizing for "Let It Go"?
No.
It's a
Yeah.
good song.
It's a decent song.
It's a good song, but the fact that it is stuck around in such a big way for so long, people are
Stupid
so
to
tired of
apologize
hearing
for.
it.
So that is not the director's fault.
Yeah,
Don't be a walk.
Don't
Don't be a
blame.
doormat.
Don't hate Disney's
Don't
marketing.
apologize.
Don't hate Disney's marketing. Don't hate the fact that
Because they will not let it go.
they're never going to let it go.
The other
That
interesting
would be
one on
like
this
Psy
list,
coming out and apologizing for Gangnam Style. Don't apologize. It's not your fault it went viral.
and breaking YouTube's counter. No, the other one was that like so Alamo Drafthouse here in Houston was going to show Team America
World Police, yeah.
World Police in place of the interview. They were one. There was a theater in Atlanta that was one.
Yeah, there was someone up in like Minnesota or something.
Yeah, and there was one other. And Paramount Pictures, who owns the rights to that, pulled the plug on that. They're like, no, you cannot show that in place. I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, that would have been awesome, though.
So for those of you who have fortunately somehow avoided the movie Team America World Police, there's a whole plot line involving Kim Jong-il, the father of Kim Jong-un, who is a singing puppet, who sings about how Ronry he is, and then turns out to be a cockroach alien who returns to his home planet. If I remember that movie correctly. It's spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, it's been out since 2004, but still.
America.
Loved that response. Fine, we'll just show Team America World Police, which North Korea previously tried to prevent from showing in the Czech Republic or something.
Right, but it was like a really... Part of what's interesting here is the response to that one wasn't that strong. And this one is like, there will be swift retribution, and then there's this hack attack, which may or may not be caused by North Korea. I tend to believe it is, that maybe North Korea hired a hacktivist group, but the timing and the target...
They probably didn't have to pay the hacktivists very much.
No, mostly just poked them.
It said, hey, look over there, go attack them.
They're real easy.
Look, it's Sony. Ooh.
Ooh.
You know what we need in the news? You know what we need in the news again? Sony hack.
Right. Yeah.
Do.
Yeah, it's been too long. It's time to hack Sony again. So, I get the sense that, North Korea is involved because the timing's too good, right? If this has always been a hack target, and the GOP has never really had, really clear goals.
Peace, not the Republicans.
Them too, but...
The goals are pretty clear.
Never had really clear goals. It's just like, oh, we want monetary contribution. Oh, we're for the workers. Oh.
Wait, are we talking about the Guardians of Peace?
Yeah, we are talking about the Guardians of Peace. The GOP not for the workers. Not to be confused
with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Not for the workers.
It's just way too confusing.
GOP not, that's show title. GOP not for the workers. But then, then the link to the movie got made, and then their goals were about the movie. And so some people said, oh, they're just changing their tune to go along with it. Or it was a cover-up gone really badly.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard arguments on both sides. I think politically, the U.S. would be very careful to call out, especially the Obama administration. They've been very careful about not calling out people that don't need to be called out.
Right. And again, this is very serious international relations if you accuse, which are stories we're not used to dealing in, the kind of serious international relations side. It is a big move for a sitting president to say, this was North Korea, to blame a state actor for something. Right. That, we don't, usually they're like rumors, but we don't come out and talk about it. Here he came in and talked about it.
This is the whole Stuxnet thing. Stuxnet never got officially blamed on the United States, even though everyone it's commonly believed by all people that we did it.
Right. I mean, we did it, or maybe in conjunction with Israel, but we did Stuxnet.
But we were never officially accused by Iran because of what that would mean.
Right. Because again, that has implications. What we have accused, we have basically accused North Korea of espionage, of what in some ways could be considered an act of war. We have accused them of this.
Well, based on the chief of staff, who was it? The DOD that said that something about hacking and it being
Yeah, it was a while ago. Tantamount to an act of war. Now, again, this wasn't U.S. government networks that got penetrated. This
Right.
was, which, by the way, they have much better security than
the leaky
Sony.
sieve known as Sony.
The leaky sieve known as Sony. But still, like, this carries weight, and they wouldn't. I don't think they would make, and maybe I have more faith in the Obama administration than your average journalist, and that may well be true. I don't think they would make that accusation as publicly if they weren't looking at more information than at least what we have.
They made it. It was also a very direct accusation, right. And we don't know what they have that is not part of the public record.
Right.
So
and we know that they're spying on every computer network everywhere. So if anyone would know, it was the Obama administration. Even in Zetter's...
You're not wrong.
Even on Zetter's article on Wired, she's like, it would take, like, NSA-level power to figure it out, to really figure it out. And then she's like, well, the Obama administration can't know. It's like, one of these things is not like the other one. Either they can know, or they can, because of the NSA, or
you're
they
making
can't
the
know.
troubling implication that the Obama administration has no control or connection
over
to
the NSA.
Well, that's a fact. I mean, that's
they have no control, but they have a connection.
They do have a connection to it. So speaking of a leaky sieve, lots of things have come out of Sony.
Oh yeah, so due to the Sony hacks, a bunch of information about like other tech companies came out. In addition to all that like heavily reported celebrity drama that we don't really care about. Something about Angelina Jolie being a spoiled princess. I don't know. So the first bit of news was about Snapchat and, you know, kind of their business plans and their acquisitions and other information like that. So based on emails between Sony Entertainment CEO Michael Linton, Snapchat, and Snapchat board member Mitch Lasky, Snapchat purchased a QR code scanning company called Scan.me for $14 million in cash plus another $3 million in reserve stock. An eyeglass video company, very similar to kind of like a Google Glass, but minus the smartphone. So all of the articles on this said, oh, it's like Google Glass. No, it's like someone put a video recorder in your glasses, and then you take them home and you plug them into your computer, and you can download the video.
Fast, yep.
So that's what they bought, called Virgin Labs, for $11 million in cash, as well as the purchase price for AdLive, which is a live video startup that Snapchat purchased for $10 million in cash and $20 million in stock. Also, we learned that Snapchat is working on a music service that could potentially be used. They're hoping for like artist promotion, things like that. And then the CEO of Snapchat came out and said how disappointed he was in the...
He was nearly in tears.
The Sony hack and all of his wonderful business plans getting leaked.
No, but it was like really like emo. Like, I had to go on a long walk and I ran into this is almost direct quote. I had to go on a long walk to sort out my thoughts, and I ran into a high school teacher of mine who gave me a hug, and I really needed that hug.
Did he have to go spend some time in his Boostabago while he was at it?
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like he was in real need of his Boostabago.
The Boostabago dude, like
we've been very critical of him in past.
He's kind of not gonna say it, but we've been very critical.
Poem in your journal and move on.
Yes, and speaking of moving on from Snapchat, we also found out, and this is more interesting to me. We also found out about an MPAA project called, quote, Goliath. So apparently lawyers from Sony and 6 other major studios exchanged emails about Goliath and, quote, the problems created by Goliath when it comes to internet piracy. In case you're wondering, this is capital G Goliath, and there's some referring to search engine, and I only know of one search engine that's a capital G, and that's Google. So Goliath seems to be based on Google, based on all of the data available, and the attacks by these different groups that are part of the MPAA on Google are in an attempt to kind of stop them from serving up piracy and very much the YouTube problems that Google's had of people posting copyrighted material, and then Google having to be very aggressive about taking it down because of the MPAA.
Right.
There's a great Verge article on it that's going to be in the show notes with lots of details on kind of what they're doing to try to take Google down, which involves like state prosecutors,
Interesting.
presumably working in the like good faith of the public to protect consumer rights. Blah blah blah. There was a case that was brought by the Mississippi Attorney General Jim Hood back at the end of October that was said to be kind of in the public interest. Well, this week Google, presumably because they now know about this Project Goliath, is responding with by suing the Attorney General because they think that he has singled out the company for a, quote, burdensome retaliatory subpoena.
Interesting.
And they've taken that matter to court. So what do we think of this kind of secondary fallout from the Sony hack, of all of the information outside of just Sony Pictures that we've gained as a result of that?
Well, it's one of those strange things. Like Deloitte payment information got out there. The fact that Nintendo is working with Sony on doing a new Mario film, a cartoon this time, not the live action abomination.
Thank goodness.
That was just horrific. I mean, this has just been a lot of different stuff beyond the kind of, Gawker, TMZ, celebrity gossip stuff, which to me isn't all that interesting. And
Sony's trying to take down a lot of it because,
of course they are. It's ruining their business.
Like their lawyers are very aggressively going after news outlets for posting this stuff, and the news outlets have responded with, "We didn't post it. We're just reporting on it."
Right, and I mean, look, they're going to lose that because journalism ethics is based on this idea of the public good, and
right.
that gets defined real broadly, to the point where I don't think Sony really is like to say that. So now it's just like these kind of really plaintive, like, don't post about this stuff. Don't post about, like, just don't post about it. Maybe if you had better network security, you might not be in this mess, or you might still. I mean, it was North Korea. They're very determined. So there is kind of an ethical question in talking about it, but I think, look, we talked about the Snowden leaks. That was illegally obtained information. We talked about, well, we didn't, but journalists had no problem talking about the Bradley Manning stuff. That was illegally obtained. It's just like, since it's a company, we feel less, we're supposed to feel more weird about it than if it's the U.S. government. I'm sorry, we talk about leaked documents all the time.
Yeah, this was illegally obtained. Oh, what do you think all of the rumor mill stuff is? It's people using sources who are under non-disclosure agreements.
Who are breaking those non-disclosure agreements.
Tell them to disclose to them information about the future software and things.
What do you think Snowden was? Snowden was literally an act of treason. And we talked about it for almost an entire year.
I mean, what do you think about this whole Google, the MPAA specifically targeting Google? And it seems like they're actually kind of afraid of Google.
Well,
and waking, there's a quote in it, something about like waking, and let me pull up this Verge article. There's something about like waking the sleeping Goliath or something like that.
Well, they've done it now. I mean, they've done it now.
Google smash.
Well, because you have to realize that Google, in terms of valuation, is worth more than all of them. So we think of the MPAA as this kind of bottomless pit of lawyer money. Do you want to know who has an even more bottomless pit of lawyer money? Google.
Well, here's a good one. So they speak. This is a direct quote out of the Verge article by Russell Brandom. It says they speak of, quote, the problems created by Goliath, end quote, and worry, quote, what Goliath could do if it went on the attack, end quote. But guess what? It's just about to find out what Google is going to do to you when it goes on the attack.
Right, yeah, I mean, Google is now, going to attack. I think they're literally talking about...
the MPAA lawyers will, from henceforth, be issued slings.
They can...
Right. Right, but I mean... up until now, they've been taking on individuals. They've been taking on, small things because they know they can't actually stand up to Google. And also, I think their case against Google at this point, now that the Viacom YouTube stuff has been settled and YouTube has so aggressive a content recognition policy and sides so heavily with the copyright holders to the point where I have to spend a lot of time going, damn it, I own the rights to this song. Every time I post this, I have to go, I own the rights to this song. What is the point of buying it off of Bond 5 if I have to keep going to this song and dance where I own this song? Half of the things I do get flagged as third-party content match. It's like, yeah, no joke. I paid for that third-party content. I don't think, and then, so they're worried that, just like the Europeans, that Google links to stuff that's illegal. Well, Google's a dumb algorithm, right?
No. It's a brilliant algorithm.
No, but it's an algorithm without
that knows that you actually want that information. See, that's the thing. Most of this content is not available easily. So what is the most pirated show every year?
Game of Thrones.
It's the opening or closing episode of Game of Thrones.
Right.
Is always the most pirated single thing on the internet because it's not available on the internet. You can't get it.
Yeah, you can.
Now that's about to become not true.
You can get it on iTunes for $2.
Well, but that's in the United States. If you're outside of the United States, you're screwed.
Nah,
they've got
But
so Australia is really the one that pirates the most Game of Thrones.
They pirate everything. The Aussies just pirate everything.
It was a prison colony. They kind of keep that mentality.
Old habits die hard.
Old habits die hard. But I really think that it's Google knows that this is if people are searching and they're clicking on the piracy links and they stay there, then Google's algorithm says, okay, that is a good link. People like that link. So it's going to automatically serve that link higher and higher and higher on a given search.
I don't know. I search Game of Thrones episodes and I buy them in the Google Play Store. I get Game of Wikipedia, IMDb, Wikia.
Well, I mean,
TV.com.
you probably have to pan through pretty far.
Or
So you
you're
just go
searching for Game of Thrones online free.
Because
Pirate Bay.
Game of Thrones I'm gonna try that one. Online free. I can watch on Google Play for free.
Game
Fun fact.
of Thrones.
So the first one here is watch Game of Thrones online TV show. Watch series7.eu/show/Game of Thrones streaming.
Yeah.
And then we have we have couchtuner.me. We have sidereel.com. I mean.
So what do you do? Do you rip those out of the Google search results?
But that's the problem. Google will never do that. Because that'll be
Unless
a whole
they're
sector.
legally mandated to.
That's a whole sector of the internet that they're not crawling. So I think that the goal here was that they were going to slowly chip away, and I haven't read through it because it's a lot of information, but they're going to slowly chip away at Google so that they won the small battles until they really got what they wanted, which is they said that there's a quote here that says, "We start from the premise that site blocking is a means to an end." That you should just block a site if it has piracy information. Comcast can do that.
Sure.
Let's talk about net neutrality.
Right. Comcast can just block that on their network. Any of the ISPs can. But I think, they may have a First Amendment argument against that. You can, and I think the Supreme Court or some court recently upheld this.
I think it's Court of Appeals.
Court of Appeals. That some ebook distributor went out of business and showed people how to un-DRM their ebooks. Because their DRM servers were going to be shutting down and they'd no longer be authenticate. Now, of course, that's universally applicable, and so they got sued. And if I understand it correctly, the Court of Appeals was like, no, you can tell people how to get around these things. You just can't do it for them. Or, like, you can show them where the pirated content is. You can't host it. Google's not hosting this stuff. Google's not the one distributing it. If Google helps you find it, that's still within their First Amendment rights. I can write a book about how to buy drugs in America, right? I'm not going to
have those in my school well, I don't know if they tell you how to buy drugs, but there are definitely books about drugs in school library.
So I have a book about kind of the dark side of Disney, and it tells you where to buy drugs in Orlando. That book's not illegal, even though it tells me how to do something illegal. I can find books on about how to build a pipe bomb. That's generally for malfeasance. So again, showing where that they may not like it, but maybe if they found a way to better release their content in a paid model that makes sense, they'd be doing a lot better. Or piracy would go down. They would probably make less money.
That's the problem. They've got such a corner on the market. They're making...
No, they don't.
No. In the sense that if any content of theirs is out there, they're either so heavily attacking the people that have it. So, and we're talking about the big boys that have it, the YouTubes, everyone else. Or
it's totally underground.
Yeah, or it's totally underground, like Pirate Bay or any of the torrent sites, the peer-to-peer sharing sites. But it's for me, it's much more about that. So Ultraviolet is a perfect example of this. I hate Ultraviolet.
That's terrible. It's terrible
because I can't use Ultraviolet on iTunes. I can't just say I have this Ultraviolet code. Can I just type it into iTunes and get the movie? No, I can't. I have to go through like this archaic process. I have Ultraviolet movies. I don't know how to get to them.
Right. Like how it's like, it comes with a free digital copy that you can't use. So
what I do is I take the DVD, I put it into the computer.
You circumvent.
I circumvent the DRM on it and store it on my hard drive so it's easily accessible for.
And you've broken the law.
I want it. I have broken the law.
You've circumvented the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, because you went through encryption.
Yes.
Can't do it.
Yep.
Great.
So if Jimmy gets hauled off in the middle of this podcast, you'll all know why.
If that's what they're hauling people off for, they've run out of things. So speaking of hauling people off, what's going on with Uber?
Yeah, Uber really did not have a good week in the press, and then they kind of did. They really are not hurting by all the bad press. So this week, Uber dealt with the fallout around the Sydney hostage crisis, where they increased rates in the central business district of Sydney Yeah, it was like by 4 times for surge pricing. With the stated, they posted on Twitter that they were raising the base rate to get more drivers to come in.
But they were trying to do someone a favor.
like they were trying to do this to help get more drivers into the central business district.
It's a beautifully tone deaf company. I mean, it's beautiful.
And then the world ended is basically what happened for Uber. And then they said, wait, our bad. All trips out of the central business district are free, period. And
kind
then
of like I tell my students, sometimes you just need to do the right thing because it's the right thing. One would hope that maybe it wouldn't take lots of extra money to motivate the Uber drivers to get in there and be helpful.
Well, but that's the Uber drivers get that, I'm sure that they get an alert that says there's a higher rate available here. We need drivers here. And so they'll naturally, economics.
Sure.
Give them more money, they will go there.
Right, but it shouldn't.
And so what I'm sure happened is
at the expense of people fleeing a dangerous situation.
And so basically what happened was we got this ridiculous surge prices. Most of the screenshots showed like a minimum price of $100 for getting out of the central business district. They backtracked free rides, reimbursed everyone that had paid the significantly increased fee to try to get better, PR.
Nope.
It didn't work. People basically just said,
now it's too late.
Yeah, but just for a little bit of time, you guys were screwing us. So as a result of that, we're just, even though you're giving away free rides now, you didn't immediately. So then they also were forced to shut down after beginning operations in Portland, Oregon, because it was illegal. They had the petition.
I'm sorry, it's really bad if you're getting called out for doing something in Portland.
Nothing's illegal in
right?
Portland.
They're pretty easygoing people.
Yeah. They
But
got
you probably disturb their naturally small batch, locally grown, organic taxi service.
So.
There's probably
all the pedicabs in Portland.
That's probably the problem.
Yeah.
You can't have pedicabs in Portland, surely. It rains all the time, right?
No, but I'm sure like they have like a local runs only on biodiesel.
Probably
from
all pulled by mules or something.
Or pulled by mules or cats in fedoras. It's just like
free-range mules.
Free-range mules that may take you
Fair
where
trade.
you want to go or not.
With bespoke carriages.
Bespoke carriages that were from fair trade, harvested, sustainable,
bird safe
tree farms.
Yep.
So basically what happened is that they got their little petition signed of like 11,000 people.
We love you, Portland.
Yeah, we love you, Portland. Doing all your hipster-tasticness. And basically this is from the Uber blog. They said, "Today we're proud to announce that we have a commitment from Portland officials to create a regulatory framework for Uber within the next 3 months."
Sorry, guys.
Regulations are not available by April 9th. The city will allow ride-sharing companies to operate while they continue to pursue a long-term solution. So basically, Uber said, yeah, okay, maybe we shouldn't have been operating, but hey, 3 months.
3 months.
3 months, is not exactly April 9th. They're not good at counting. That's more like 3.5.
First and ask forgiveness later? Better to ask forgiveness than to ask permission?
So, yeah, Uber and Portland, not friends. But on a positive note, they raised $1.2 billion in funding for a total valuation of $40 billion. That's with a B.
Yep.
Or 3 WhatsApps.
Or more than one Delta Airlines.
So many
Or more than one
Instagrams.
Delta Airlines. Or approximately a Facebook on original valuation when they IPO'd.
Yeah. Or half of what Apple has in cash reserves at any given moment.
Because, well, why not? So, Trey, you love the Uber button.
I do.
How do you feel about Uber's responsibility to keep pricing at reasonable rates during crisis and the frankly ridiculous valuation?
I think they're a wonderfully tone-deaf company. They would just do not think it through. I think they really thought they were helping. I do not think they're like, oh, here's a tragedy, let's make money off of it. It's like, oh, we need to help. We need to get more drivers. Drivers work on money. Let's get them more money, more drivers. Give them more money
to get more drivers.
I think this shows like something about their internal psychology. I think they really thought they were helping. I really do.
Okay, so here's the interesting thing. So in the United States, and this was kind of started by New York and then got rolled out as a totally national plan, they set for emergencies. The price is set by, you take out the 3 highest surge rates in the last 2 months. You take those out, and then whatever the next highest is, whatever number 4 is what the surge rate is capped at. It will not exceed that. So, for example, they can charge whatever they want for New Year's Eve in Times Square. They can charge whatever they want for
it's
ACF
not an
in
emergency.
Austin. They can charge whatever they want for Mardi Gras in New Orleans. However, if Katrina happens, they can't charge
Sandy or whatever
Mardi Gras rates to get people out.
Okay.
It would be capped at less than that.
Again, I think some of this is just Uber's young and slightly stupid.
They have lots of money, and they haven't grown up as a company.
Because they're not run by adults. I mean, they're run by people my age and younger.
I think the thing that, and this was summed up in a Mashable article that I was reading, is that, it was TechCrunch, that basically it's that a lot of people don't like, when the whole thing about the journalists came out, this was 2 or 3 weeks ago, or I guess it was 3 or 4 weeks ago now, there was a lot of backlash and people saying that, they weren't going to do that. And the God view about all the privacy data that they were collecting. But the truth of the matter is that Uber is a truly disruptive service. The fact that I can press a button, have a guy pick me up.
Actually,
You know,
it's run
whether
by
it's-
adults. It's run by people born in the 70s.
Yeah, no, it's run by people born in the 70s. They just, still have the startup mentality.
Yeah.
I can press a button, have a car show up, guy take me to the place on my phone that I put on my phone. I don't have to tell him where I'm going. I get there, and then I just get out of the car, and I'm done.
Yeah.
Like it's an amazing service, and
Yeah.
I, for one, welcome my cold, heartless overlords.
Look,
But
I
they're
welcome.
not. They just don't understand.
Right. And so they're learning. And the press has kind of turned hard on them. And so anytime they learn something,
It's 'cause they
They
kinda
just need to
hard
hire
on
new
us.
PR people.
they did. They hired
Stat.
a former Obama press secretary.
That was smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to fix this problem.
We need to fix this.
At least they realize they don't know what they're doing.
No, they,
$1.2 billion in funding. Let's go get a real press
We
secretary.
should probably stop talking to people without an expert.
yeah, they do. But the bit I don't get, and this is why I think we're just in the middle of a massive tech bubble, again, is because how is Uber worth $41 billion? How? On what planet is Uber worth $41 billion? A
Because
taxi
Uber's-
service.
Uber is an amazingly scalable taxi service. You don't have to pay for cars. You don't have to pay for.
Right, they send 3 people to a city and that's how they get Uber going in that city. Like, I get that they have very low costs. And I get
Like,
they take 20%
costs
of all
are
rides.
Oh, and then profits are good. I mean, this is the App Store model. Like, what are you selling?
Right, and look at
Selling
what happened to
other
all of those
people's-
companies. What's Zynga worth now? Huh?
Ah.
What is Zynga worth now?
No. You're misinterpreting. It's the App Store model in the sense that Apple takes 30%. Yeah,
Right.
Zynga takes 70%, but Zynga has all the development cost. Uber doesn't, like, individual drivers are not actually important.
Yeah, but Apple must be taking a cut of Uber too. Anytime you make money in the App Store, you're paying Apple.
Well, and
That's why Amazon won't let you buy Audible books in-app.
It's in-app purchases.
Any Uber ride's an in-app purchase, right?
Unless it's there's a workaround to that where
Like if you're Amazon shopping.
yeah, there's
So
a
maybe-
workaround to that.
Okay. But my point
Because
is...
when they quote you, they give you a range.
Sure, yeah, and then
So
it all happens in the back end.
and
of
then
the
they
email.
charge you
You don't
for it.
actually agree to it in the app. I get it.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense. But here's my point. All of these kind of big app store companies, very few of them have had these ridiculous valuations, Snapchat included. And the ones that have actually come out and tried to make money on the open stock market, very few of them have done well.
I think one of the differences with Uber, though, is Uber is an actual physical real world service.
Sure, yeah, you're not
Like,
just buying digital widgets.
Zynga is
Just a bad company.
you're buying cow shaped pixels. Like,
Well, and Uber can just
Uber is
keep-
not a service that is going like. No time in the foreseeable future is taxi service going to be something people don't want or need
And
anymore.
actually, it's becoming more with companies like Uber and Lyft. It's becoming something where people are able to move away from owning a car and can just rely on these services because of how seamless Uber has made it.
Right. So I mean,
and-
it's a tech company in some ways, but in a lot of ways, it moves into other areas of life that are less transient than the tech world.
Uber is also very interesting because if you look at it, so Uber was valued like $22 billion in June, and they're now valued at $40 billion. Now, the biggest difference between that was like back in June, they were in, this is not going to be right, they were in like 37 countries and 120 cities. They're now in 200 cities in 54 countries. Like,
Oh, they can move.
they are in a bunch of places.
Sure.
And if you are used to, let's say that you're traveling internationally as a business person, because I think that Uber appeals, if you look at the design of the app, if you look at their kind of design language, they are appealing to the executive, where you land, you press a button, and someone comes and gets you.
Yeah. I mean, I am looking forward to the next time I travel internationally. I think I am going to a place where Uber is, and so I'll be using it because and it's the same app, and it's just my same payment information, and I just kind of
Right, just press a button and
off
someone
I go.
comes and picks you up. You land in London. I don't know if London's an Uber city, but you for example, let's say London's an Uber city. You land in London, you press a button, someone picks you up from the airport and takes you to your hotel. Like, it's the same exact experience as if you land in New York or you land in
Atlanta, I
or
use Uber all the
Houston
time.
or Austin or wherever Uber is in the United States, not Portland. You have
Not
to have a
Portland.
pedicab.
Not yet.
They need to make Uber for pedicabs. That's really the solution.
It is where I'm going next. Sao Paulo, Brazil. Yes.
Uber in Sao Paulo?
Yeah.
Sao Paulo's a big city. I mean,
Yeah, and I'll be in Sao Paulo and Rio, and so I'm just gonna keep using it. Great. We need to get the Uber. Just needs to be everywhere. Let's see. London is an Uber city? So is Leeds, England. Moscow.
there's
Is an
actually
Uber
there's
city.
a lot in England are actually Uber cities.
Honey, we were just in a Uber city. We were in Dublin, and Barcelona, both of which are Uber cities.
Of course,
not take
Barcelona's an
Uber.
Uber city.
We should have taken Uber. That would have made my
Madrid
life.
Barcelona
Uber
is
city. I need
basically
to know
like-
this.
Anyway, I'll reserve my comments on Barcelona.
Yeah, it's probably best. It turns out I've been in.
Tourist trap.
I hated
Awful.
it. Jimmy, by the way, Brussels also an Uber city.
Sweet. So I can Uber to the bar.
Yep, Madrid is an Uber city. I think I saw that.
Man,
Yeah. Yeah, that really would have solved some of your Madrid problems.
that would have really solved some of my significant Madrid problems.
Yeah, good luck telling your cabbie where to go. Fuerte. So speaking of companies changing their mind on things, Yahoo's photo sharing site Flickr has reversed course a little bit. A while ago, they introduced a new feature called wall art, which lets you buy canvas versions of your own photos, or photos that people were selling, or Creative Commons images available via Flickr. This led to a backlash within their community, claiming that by making money on selling these prints, specifically the Creative Commons ones, they are making money on the backs of their community and violating the spirit of Creative Commons. They have now pulled the Creative Commons photos out of the wall art feature and issued an apology. Hey, Jimmy, you're a photographer. What do you think of this move?
Okay, so I use Flickr. I post a lot of images on Flickr, but when I post them on Flickr, I keep all rights reserved because I don't want people using my images. Well, first off, I don't really share them with like the Flickr community. It's more of a way for me to share high quality images with friends and family. But I was, when they announced this, I was very interested because fundamentally Creative Commons is all about, as long as you give accreditation, you are allowed to use the image in any way you want.
It depends. There are different types of Creative Commons.
Yeah, there are different
licenses.
levels of Creative Commons. In most cases, though, Creative Commons is as long as you don't make money from it, you don't like resell it. So
Right.
like, oh, here's this picture that I took. You pay me $5 or whatever. As long as you don't resell it, as long as you attribute where you got it from, you're okay. And so I really feel like with Flickr that using they have all of this Creative Commons information that Flickr's been around since 2004. They're really the longest site of this nature that has been around. And definitely where there's the largest photographer community. So there's a lot of really high quality images that are available there, as well as some of the images that were available are like NASA. That's Creative Commons.
No, that's.
It's creative. I think it's Creative Commons is the way the NASA stuff is released.
I think it's just straight up public domain.
Okay, you might be right.
Yeah, it's.
But anyways, so photographers getting mad about, oh, you're making money off the backs of your photographers. I would be really interested to see what is the difference between me purchasing my picture, a Creative Commons picture, and then a licensed picture. What is the difference between those three things? Because the difference between me purchasing my picture and the Creative Commons picture is nothing. If these are the same price, then they're not making any money on the Creative Commons than they are off of you printing your own pictures. Like They're merely providing an easy way for you to take a Creative Commons picture and print it.
Yeah, but they're still using that.
They're using their community. Yes, they are leveraging their community.
Yes. In a way that apparently they don't want to be leveraged.
Yeah, and there was enough backlash from the community that they pulled it. But I really think this is a misunderstanding of the community of like what Creative Commons means. For me, it's I guess the difference between, because how Flickr presented it is you click on you had three choices basically, licensed, your pictures, licensed, creative, nature, this, that, the other, and then there's one at the bottom, Creative Commons.
Right.
And so you click on Creative Commons and you could go look at all these Creative Commons pictures and print them. And so I think that people don't understand that me as a user, assuming that the Creative Commons, you're using the kind where I can just attribute it and then not make money off of it. I can pick that, go to Kinko's and print it.
Right. Yes.
And Kinko's has the disclaimer of like, you need to own this picture to print it.
Yeah, but they don't care. I mean, they don't really look that hard.
Check that.
They
But
don't look that hard.
or Adorama or Snapfish, or pick one. Like
Whoever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
you have to have credit to print it.
But I think some of it is people don't really think through what Creative Commons means.
They don't know what licensing that they're giving people is.
Right, and I think some of it also is that I think it would have been different if you could opt your Creative Commons stuff in, but that wasn't how it worked. They were all just
automatic opt-in.
Right, they were just thrown in, and this would be totally different if, like the licensed folks, you could just opt into that thing. And then I think people would have felt better about it. I think it was the just taking it, even though that's kind of how Creative Commons works.
Well, so there's been a way within Flickr for a long time. They had a deal with Snapfish, I think, where if you had licensed images, what you could do is you could say, okay, well, this image, this is my breakdown of the cost for the image, and then you could purchase the image within Flickr. So you click a button, it would take you to, put in the amount, it would take you to Snapfish, and it would automatically give you the money.
Right.
There's a way to set that up, and I never actually activated it, but it was always kind of interesting to me. Mm-hmm. But all of the you have to have so many. When I looked at stock photos, you have to have so many licensing things in place to do that. If you have people,
right, that's the issue for me. Is where I'm taking photos is not.
Well, that's certain buildings you have to have permission to take pictures of. I was reading through, it was like Getty Images. I was reading through all of the things. I said, this is just not worth it.
Right, yeah. I've looked into being a stock photographer at times too, and it's just no. I'm not dealing with this. This is way more.
So I think that Flickr tried to do something very interesting with all of the content that they had, and the internet bit their head off. So
sure,
it's kind of sad, but
sure. So on not sad at all news is this week's last call.
Space, the final frontier.
Last calls in space. The best kind of last call.
Welcome back, Queen of Space.
Happy to be here. So, what happens when you're on the ISS and forgot your socket wrench on Earth?
Giant magnet.
Good theory, Jimmy. We'll definitely have to research that one.
Space elevator.
Also a good option.
Also being recent.
But not the currently implemented plan. So apparently, if you've forgotten something vital on Earth, NASA can just email it to you.
Emails.
So Commander Barry Wilmore was explaining to NASA that he needed a socket wrench. Now, why one went to space without a socket wrench is a completely separate question. But in order to solve this problem, the folks who made the ISS's 3D printer, which is apparently named Made in Space.
Yep, it is.
That's awesome.
Which is awesome. It would be really awesome if it printed that on everything. So they overheard this conversation, and so they designed a wrench in CAD and emailed the file up. It was printed on the printer, and problem solved. You got your tool.
Sweet.
This is awesome.
3D printers in space.
There's not actually a whole lot of of course they were 3D printers, so this is obviously the answer.
Well, but the thing is that the 3D printer is really new because 3D printing in space in zero gravity is very difficult.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Because the fundamental idea behind all of the like maker bots and things like that is that the gravity helps hold the layers together as they cool.
Right.
So you have to come up with some kind of system to diffuse it as you're printing it.
Problem solved, apparently.
Socket wrench.
Socket wrench.
Magic.
So on that note, we probably should get out of here. Thank you so much for joining us. Another episode of Text Last Call. If you have any feedback for us, podcast@textlastcall.com, facebook.com/textlastcall, pinterest.com/textlastcall, or at Text Last Call on the Twitters. However you find us, we'll be seeing you on the interwebs. This next week's show is Best Of.
That's episode 2.
Episode 100.
The episode 100, and it'll be...
Can we have cake?
It'll be Best Of,
Yes.
and then...
There should be cake.
So sometime in the next week, we need to schedule Game and Device of the Year discussions. That's next,
2015 approaches.
the next show. And then 2 weeks from now is predictions.
So I need to put my set with me to DC.